In today's lesson, we're going to be learning how to multiply a 3-digit number times a single-digit number using our box method. And we'll go through the first 2 problems on this worksheet together, and then you'll complete the remaining 4 on your own for practice. Today's lesson builds on 3 concepts from other videos that we've watched this week. A lot of times I think about math as stair steps, where each day you just climb a little bit higher. You add one more step to your understanding until you've climbed to the very top of a tall tower of mathematical concepts. So this week we climbed a couple steps. On Monday, we looked at multiplying a 3-digit number times a 1-digit number using arrays. And we're going to be solving problems like this today as well, where we have arrays. And we saw from those arrays that when you multiply by a 3-digit number, you break it up into 3 different sections based upon your place value. So you'll have a hundreds place section, a tens place section, and a ones place section. On Tuesday, we looked at how to use the box method to multiply 2-digit numbers times 1-digit numbers. So we looked at how this box method is really the same idea as an array, but instead of writing all those little tiny squares, we take the squares out and we just use boxes to represent those sections that we're multiplying by, the place value parts we multiply by. On Wednesday, we looked at how to multiply by multiples of 100, and we saw that when you're multiplying by a factor that's in the hundreds place, all you have to do is multiply those non-zero digits and then stick 2 zeros at the end since it's in the hundreds place. So today's lesson puts all 3 of these ideas together. As you watch today's lesson, if you find that there's any parts you're having a hard time with, I would encourage you to go back and re-watch any of these lessons if you need to. So this is the first problem on your worksheet, 724 times 5. And using the box method, we're going to break 724 apart by place value. We'll have a box for 700 in the hundreds place, 20 in the tens place, and 4 in the ones place. And we're multiplying all of those different sections of that number times 5. So if this was an array, there would be 700 little boxes in this row, and there'd be 5 rows of them. That is a ridiculous array to try to build. So that's why the box method really comes in handy for this. The steps are going to be the same as what we did when we multiplied by a 2-digit number with the box method, with one exception. Now we have a hundreds place, so we have to multiply by the hundreds place. So our first step here is going to be to multiply by the hundreds place, and that would be taking this 700 times 5. Remember, we're always multiplying whatever's above, labeling that row, times the column, how many rows we have. So 7 times 5 is a basic fact, 35, and then I add 2 more zeros at the end. So that first step that I did was 700 times 5, and I do need to put a comma in there. That would be 3,500. Our second step now is to multiply by the tens place. So the same idea, I'm going to take the 20 that's above the row that labels how many I have going across, times 5 is how many rows I have. And again, this is multiplying by a tens fact, so we can use our little trick here. 2 times 5 is 10. That's the non-zero digits we multiply by together. And then we stick a 0 at the end of that because that was in the tens place. So our problem was 20 times 5 equals 100. The third step then is going to be to multiply by the ones place. So we're just going to do 4 times 5, and that would give me 20. 4 times 5 is 20. And then, of course, our fourth step will be to add all these partial products together. So we'll take 3,500. And notice how I gave you these little spaces on your worksheet so you can line those digits up. That can get a little tricky when you're looking at all these different numbers that have different digits to them and you're lining them up. So use those little blanks as you write each digit in. Anyway, 3,500 plus 100 plus 20. And when we do these problems, you're going to find these addition problems are pretty easy because we're going to end up with a lot of zeros in here as we multiply by these different factors. So 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 plus 2 is 2. 5 plus 1 is 6, and a 3 out in front gives us the final answer of 3,620. I'm going to go through question number 2 a little bit faster, and again, feel free to pause or replay if you need to. So in question number 2, we're multiplying 279 times 3. So we broke 279 up by place value to 270 and 9. Step 1 is to multiply the hundreds place. So we'd multiply 200 times 3. That would be 2 times 3, which is 6, and add 2 zeros to the end. 200 times 3 is 600. Our second step will be to multiply by the tens place. That's 70 times 3. So we would solve 7 times 3 is 21, and then we add a 0 at the end for the tens place. 70 times 3 is 210. The third step then will be to multiply by the ones place, and that's 3 times 9. That equals 27. After finding all our partial products, then our final step is to add the partial products together. So we would add 600 plus 210 plus 27. And when we add those up, we end up with 837. Now you're going to go ahead and complete the remaining 4 problems on your own for practice. I do want to take a moment to explain to you how to get the answer to your riddle. It's a really cute one, and I came up with it myself. But to solve it, it's a little different than ones we've done before. The directions tell us that once you get an answer, you actually cross it off in the answer bank. So our first answer there that we came up with of 3,620, we're going to go ahead and cross that off in the word bank or in the answer bank. And then our second answer was 837, so we'll cross that off. And as you cross the answers off, once you finish crossing all 6 correct answers off, then the letters that are left are what's going to tell you the answer to this riddle. So you'll cross off 6 of them. That will leave you 7 letters left, and you'll just take those letters and copy them down in order. So for example, if when you finish all 6 problems, this answer here for letter A is still there, you didn't use that answer, then the first letter you'd write down would be an A. If that one gets crossed off, then you would start with this letter I and write that one down first.